Hi, I'm Kim Edelston with FamilyBusiness.org. Today, I'm with Sunil Soni. And with over 15 years working with family businesses, Sunil Soni is a mentor for next generation leaders and a coach and family business advisor in India. His practice focuses on developing the next generation and managing communication and decision-making for multi-generation family businesses. He has interviewed and diagnosed the challenges of more than 600 family businesses in India and across the globe. Thank you for being with me today, Sunil.
Thank you, Kim, for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
So recently, you've been emphasizing the importance of bonds and managing distance in family relationships. What do you mean by distance, and why can it become a problem?
Family is that core foundation which gives us the memories and so much relation within ourselves as well. And I think for us to feel stable there is very important. And that's something I think any individual for that matter needs to feel grounded and to feel connected with oneself so that he can actually do a lot for others. So I think that's a foundation which works for everyone when it comes to family. And that's where I feel it's very important for us to be able to manage our bonds, to be able to manage our connections with the family members.
What creates distance among family members in a family business?
Kim, I think there are different ways families, struggle with this. There's one where because of low engagement with family members, you start feeling distant in certain relationships. There are other sides when because of certain miscommunication, the family might feel distant from the other person. It gets very difficult to understand that how living in the same family, we could be so different of each other. So suppose me and my brother have had a conversation and I said something because of which he was hurt. Yeah. Now, in that moment, one thing which happens is somehow the family members feel that since he know me since my childhood, he should understand what I'm going through. We want the other person to recognize what the mistake he's made. But this is not so easy for the other person because we are naturally very different. Yeah. And that creates distance within these relationships. Often at times when the instance repeats, it further creates more hurt or anger. And even then, if we do not have practiced enough that how do we communicate this, often this goes to a point where we burst out and this further starts creating a lot of other misunderstandings.
You must see some family businesses that are better at maintaining and creating bonds than others. So what are some of the best practices you've seen in nurturing and strengthening family businesses, particularly as the families grow, right, to include multiple branches and generations?
The first thing begins with recognizing and appreciating we are different. Now, for a lot of families, they have these beautiful structures, where families get together on different events. So it could be summer vacations with family together. It could be celebrating festivals together. It could be doing birthday parties. Here in India, we have this great festival called Diwali where most of the family businesses get together. So you get to meet your cousins, you get to meet your uncles, you get to meet your aunts. So these are great opportunities for us to kind of reconnect with the family and build this relationship. On the other hand, I think a lot of great leaders understand something we know as a concept called emotional bank account. In terms of emotions and connections, we are constantly making deposits in the other emotions or into the relationship. So when you keep promises in a relationship, you make a deposit. When you listen to others without judgments, you make a deposit. And likewise, each one of us has a certain amount of balance in the family. So even at times when I make a mistake or if I miss out a meeting or if I fail to keep up a promise, the bank which is already maintained, it is easier to withdraw from there. So, you can easily kind of make a few mistakes when the other person has recognized that there's so much of deposit which is maintained. It could look very different for the families or individuals where there are distances because essentially you recognize there are no deposits in those relationships. Relaunch this bank account with the other person.
So in your work, have you seen a family that was distant or getting distant and you were able to help them rebuild those connections? And how'd you do it?
Let me share one of the recent work which I've been doing with a family. It's a family based in Gujarat, and it's a family where there are two uncles who are leading the business, and there are two next generation members who have recently joined the business. It's been already about 18 months since they joined the business, and because of their communication style, they were feeling that the next generation is not developing enough. So while I spoke with the next generation, one of the concerns which came is, and it doesn't feel like working with the family members, and we never get an opportunity to communicate and express ourselves, because it's always we are listening to our uncles giving us orders and we need to go and execute them. So when we met for the first time, first of all, they acknowledged that this is a great opportunity for us because this is the first time when we are talking beyond work. Also, we created opportunities for them to appreciate each other, yeah, and talk about the best memories they've had together, talk about the things they want to do together. And while we were doing these sessions, there were moments when everybody had tears in their eyes, because these were the words which were never spoken in the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Even when they spoke about memories, they came from early childhood of these kids and not in anything recent. For the first time, they had this opportunity to kind of acknowledge. So the elder generation was acknowledging the amount of commitment and the effort which the younger generation is putting, and that gave them validation. And for the elder generation, it was an opportunity to reconnect, because so much of work around us, we fail to reconnect with family at a family level. And for them, it was a great reminder to acknowledge that yes, it's a journey. Yes, everybody is going at their own space, and they felt they're coming together.
And are there specific tools or strategies that you recommend beyond this amazing example to improve family relationships within family businesses?
So the first thing is, how do we create opportunities for the families to engage constantly? Even if you look at the books of Professor Dennis Jaffe, and he's spoken about how great families engage, it's a conscious effort. It doesn't happen automatically. So you need to take out time to plan dinners, family dinners. You need to plan to block your calendar when it's a birthday in the family, or when you're meeting together for festival celebrations. You need to create occasions where family can go on vacations together. Because when you talk about children and when you talk about their best memories, they talk about these specific experiences, yeah, and that is something which kind of builds the sort of commitment they have for the family and for the institution which the family is building. And that's what we do with families. First of all, we see that how constantly the family is engaging, and what are the opportunities we can create through retreats, through other bonds, where they can have these opportunities. The second is, how do you give them opportunities to reflect on bonds and connections? How do you give them opportunities to express themselves, to be who they are? And acknowledge that it is okay to be different. It is to acknowledge that if I want to pursue something beyond family business, it is okay. To acknowledge if I made a mistake with my aunt while I was expressing something is okay, because I'm also learning and growing with that process. And all of this begins by understanding that I take the ownership of this relationship, and I'm 100% committed to the growth of the other individual. I've seen some of the most struggling relationships arise out of dark, because this is reaffirmed that you're talking about your children, you're talking about your wife, you're talking about your father. Yeah. And it's okay to make some of the mistakes we've made. And to be able to forgive is a big deposit. It's one of the biggest deposit you can make in a relationship, to be able to forgive others. I think every time you support an individual when they're low and you're able to forgive them for their mistakes, I think it's one of the biggest deposit you can make in the relationship.
Oh, that's lovely. And then you obviously really emphasize the importance of, I hear this term now, the family champion, where someone in the family is in charge of putting together these retreats and the birthdays and sending the cards. And what an important role for someone to play. And even if at first you have to hire an advisor to help with the difficult conversations, I think sometimes you need a third party.
Because somehow, with all the material world around us and the wealth around us, we tend to appreciate only the masculine side, which is about being able to accomplish tasks in business, creating wealth, and doing so many things outside. Whereas this role of keeping the family together, which in a lot of times mothers do, or the ladies in the house do, it's a very important role which needs to be appreciated and acknowledged. It's a very important role you need in the family as the family grows big. Because if you stop doing this, there's so much you're going to lose on the family side.
Thank you so much for being with me again today, Sunil Soni. It's such a pleasure. And thank you for all that you do helping family businesses around the globe.
Thank you so much. Pleasure being here, Kim.